Do you know the difference between a correction, a corrective action, and a preventive action? Do you think it even matters? Here's a hint. Yes, they are different, and yes, the differences matter. Let's dig into it. Hi, I'm Rob Weaver. Since 2003, Weaver Consulting has taught our premier methodology, root cause investigation for CAPA, to thousands of professionals globally across a multitude of highly regulated industries. With literally every training over this time, we've begun by reviewing these three critical terms, what the differences are, and why they matter. Now, FYI, the definitions I'm sharing here align with FDA definitions. I realize that won't necessarily be pertinent to all of you watching, but I suspect it will be to most of you. And it should still be very relevant for everyone to understand the differences. All right, let's begin with the first term, correction. The definition will be very narrow in scope. Action taken to eliminate a detected nonconformity. This is often describing our initial efforts trying to contain and stabilize the problem, allowing us to then go and conduct a much more thorough root cause investigation. Let's go through some examples to illustrate. One example would be scrap. Let's take my mouse here and just call it a widget. And let's imagine that this widget is defective. So we scrap it, okay? We throw it out. It never gets to the customer. Okay, great. That would be an example of a correction. Another example, we could repair or modify that defective product, service, or in this case, widget. Now it meets our specs and we can send it on out into the field. All right, great. One more example. Let's imagine that the defective widgets are already out in the field. And so we initiate a recall to get them out. All of these are examples of corrections. Hopefully, you noticed that in these examples, an investigation has not been conducted. We do not know why this is happening. These nonconformities, whatever they are, will absolutely continue to occur. All we have done is to address the symptoms of the problem and nothing more. I mean, let's think about it. Fixing this one defective widget and sending it out, that is very nice, but that has absolutely zero upstream effect as to whether or not the next one we make has the same issue, or the next, right? Or the next. The point is, the problem continues to occur. Let's now tackle that second term, corrective action. This is going to be a bit more robust. Action taken to eliminate the cause of a detected nonconformity. So, if we're going to identify the cause, it's kind of important that we investigate to figure out what happened. And now that we have that knowledge, we're in a very different position. We can now take action to either stop or minimize recurrence. So hopefully you're seeing the glaring difference between these first two terms. Again, a correction is addressing the symptoms of the problem in the moment and nothing more, while corrective action is addressing the root cause. Now let's move on to the third term, which admittedly tends to create quite a bit of confusion. And I honestly think it has to do with the semantics of the English language. This term is preventive action, whose definition is action taken to eliminate the cause of a potential nonconformity. In other words, it's never happened before. and we're trying to make sure it never does happen in the future. A good example of this would be those various risk analysis tools, such as an FMEA or failure modes and effects analysis, that most of my clients leverage before implementing just about anything new, such as a product, process, procedure, etc. We usually use these tools to really slow down, think through every step of our work, identify where there are potential failures, and implement actions to keep those failures from ever occurring. Now, admittedly, it's a bit unrealistic to think every potential nonconformity can be prevented, but many, if not most, perhaps could be through these types of efforts. So, why is there so much confusion with this last term? It usually sounds something like this. Let's imagine that a nonconformity has occurred, and now we're trying to prevent recurrence. Well, that's nice, but that's not what we mean by preventive action. Being that the nonconformity has already occurred, preventive action isn't an option for us. So we'll only have corrections and corrective actions at our disposal. So hopefully now you have a better idea of the differences between these three concepts. So the next question becomes, okay, so why do these definitions matter so much? Well, let's just imagine for a moment that an investigation is taking place. We're going to say the team has identified the root cause, and to address it, they're going to add a 100% inspection to identify the defect as it's occurring so it doesn't get to the customer, right? Now, the question becomes, is this an appropriate corrective action? No. Okay. Why? Because this inspection will not stop recurrence. It will not reduce recurrence. It's only identifying the defect as it's occurring. This is only a correction. I fully expect leadership or a customer or a regulatory body to be extremely dissatisfied with this chosen course of action. Here's another example. Let's imagine an investigation has taken place at a facility with, we'll say, multiple production lines doing similar work. The issue, we'll say, is only happening on one particular line. During the investigation, we're going to say new insights were gained regarding a particular failure that hadn't been identified in the past, and updates were then made to that one production line to stop and or reduce recurrence of the issue. The question becomes, is that good enough? Again, I would say no. We should be asking, if this issue happened on this line, are we at risk of it happening on other lines as well? In other words, now that we know about this issue, can we prevent it from happening elsewhere? Hopefully you agree that these concepts are critical to successful root cause investigations. If you'd like to learn more about topics related to root cause analysis, check out some of our other videos or visit our website. We also host quarterly online public trainings, and most of our business is providing this training in-house with our clients. I've been Rob Weaver. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep digging.